Our guest this week, then, is our latest addition to the Erskine Veterans charity as one of our ambassadors. And he's going to be talking to us about some of his work so far in his life, and also a little look ahead to what's coming up for him, because he is actually heading out of this world. He is going to space, but we'll speak to him about that very soon. My great pleasure to welcome to Erskine Veterans Radio, Trevor Beattie.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, and thanks for joining us, and congratulations on becoming our latest Erskine ambassador. Tell us a little bit about yourself then, because as I've been mentioning, that you're an ad man turned movie maker and a big supporter of all things to do with the armed forces. And I know that, of course, you're heading to space, but let's go back to the beginning of all that first. When we say you're an ad man, you are one of the most successful advertising creatives of the last sort of 20, 25 years or so, and have worked on some massive campaigns. What would people know you for?
To paraphrase The Simpsons, you may know me from certain things as French Connection, FC UK for French Connection, which caused a minor stir and a flutter, and the Hello Boys campaign for Wonderbra, which kind of haunts me to this day, strangely, and also did a lot of work for New Labour. You may have remembered William Hague wearing Margaret Thatcher's hair on a particular poster. So my involvement in politics was quite strong in the 90s as well. And it was nice to be a part of that. There was a genuine cultural movement going on, I think, in Britain at the time. And advertising was playing a big part in it. So it's nice to be in the middle of all that, really. Good fun, big working for a living, you know.
And you mentioned there some of those works maybe give you nightmares, and particularly big campaigns for like the Wonderbra thing, which was on billboards right across the country and on TV ads right across the country, if not further afield. And also the French Connection thing as well, which I know also made the headlines at the time, and there was a bit of uproar all about it. When you're sitting down and creating these things, clearly you're wanting to create a stir, but do you know the impact that you might be causing?
Well, it was interesting because one led to the other in that Wonderbra was a big success for a few years, and then I was contacted by a fellow called Stephen Marks, who is the chairman and CEO of French Connection, and I wasn't really aware of French Connection, but his brief to me was, "Can you do a Wonderbra for French Connection?" Which is an interesting question in itself, because I didn't know whether he meant make the brand more famous or make it controversial or increase the share price or increase the sales. It can mean a lot of things. And as it turned out, he said, "I want to be the most talked about fashion chain on the high street," which is the best brief you're going to get, really. So with that single-minded approach, and he was very single-minded about what they wanted, SUK was an answer that was staring us in the face, really. It's just that no one had, like a lot of ideas, I suppose, no one had picked it up. They are French Connection, United Kingdom, and there's the answer staring you in the face.
Yeah.
So it was born out of that, but French Connection was born of Wonderbra, strangely. One thing leads to another. And a client will look at what the success you've had in one project and say, okay, what's the equivalent of that acclaim and success for my brand? And that's how French Connection came about. It was fun, but it was a bit of a kind of bucking bronco of a ride, We were blamed for the downfall of Western civilization by the Daily Mail, which is probably true, actually. I think it probably was, looking back on it, responsible for the downfall, yeah. So it was an exciting and silly time.
Let's talk about Erskine then, because that's what we're here to talk about. How did you get to know about Erskine? What's your background with the Erskine Veterans charity?
It comes from the man Ian Cumming, and Ian is an extraordinary man. I've known him for over 10 years now, and he's helped out a lot with my foundation, and I knew him because I have this kind of odd military connection, even though no military connection in my family, but my family's always had a huge respect for the military, and also a kind of obsession with aviation. So I'm a real aviation geek, and through that, and the RAF, I got to know and meet Ian, who's just one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. You know, he's a genuine bona fide hero, and completely, as you would probably expect, completely self-effacing, very kind man, you know, and extraordinary character. And, you know, we've had a few capers together by the RAF, the goodwill of the RAF, and I've always tried to help out the RAF and to an extent the MOD where I can. Because I think coming from me, it comes from an odd angle, and people are more likely to listen to some long-haired git of a civvy speaking in defence of the military than the military itself, you know. So it makes people sit up and take notice, I think. And I think that was part of Ian's master plan. And you know, and he left the military, and you know, moved so naturally into the charity sector, because that's where his heart is, you know, and he's been a success at that. And so when he moved to Erskine, I knew it would be good news for Erskine. So as soon as he moved there, I wanted to get involved, and I was willing to get involved. For me to be in this position, to be offered the chance of being ambassador, I'll leap at it, you know. And I can't wait to come up at some point and visit and see for myself the extent of what's going on in Scotland.
It is a fantastic place, and I was lucky enough to have the full tour a month or so ago, and I know that you'll have a fantastic experience when you do come. It is just a wonderful place the minute that you walk in through the door, and I know that you'll be hugely welcomed when you arrive, and hopefully that things will be a little bit more open than perhaps they have been, fingers crossed, as we move through time. Whilst you're supporting the Erskine Veterans charity, you do have your own foundation as well, your own charitable foundation. What inspired you to set that up, and what are you doing with that?
What happened was, well, we lost our mum, and I lost my dad when I was 21, and so a very long time ago. And then, so my mum carried on and lived to a grand old age, so kind of had two lives, really. And there's a lot of us in our family. And when we lost our mum, it changes everything. I don't care what age you are, when both your parents have gone, you become an orphan. However big and ugly and old you are, you're an orphan. And it has a psychological effect on you. And I was very affected by that. And I wanted to make some good come out of it and take the learnings that they'd given me over so many decades, take their values, Jack and Ada's values, and put them back out and do some good. And so I spent about a year really studying what they meant to me and my family, my brothers and sisters, studying what they meant and how we could translate that to help others the way that they'd help us. It was that simple. At the time, I didn't know the difference between a charity and charitable foundation. I bloody well do now, you know. And I teamed up with a girl called Alex, and Alex was brilliant. Alex knew all about it and taught me that difference. And so we launched it in 2011 because I already had a lot of charitable projects that I was working with. As with Normandy Veterans, and my mum's final wish was that I would look after the old boys, as she said, you know, look after the Normandy veterans. And so I vowed after that I always would. And so one of the initial projects for our foundation was to make sure that we took the boys and overladies, as I call them, overlords and overladies, you know, back to Normandy every year. And that was our first commitment. And then it grew from there, where we've helped out many charities now. And that's where it came from. And using, you know, what I'd learned in advertising to market what we were doing, and to, as you said, to express in simple terms what it is our foundation does. So the first thing to do was to write a line. I saw was to write a line which summed up what it is that we do. And our line is, knowing that someone is fighting your corner is half the battle won. Which again, even accidentally, has military tones to it. But knowing that we're on your side, helps you sleep nights. And that's what we're about. We've raised and given away a hell of a lot of money over the last decade, and continue to do so. And out of that, we've had individual projects like Bank of Mum and Dad. So set up an interest-free loan system called Bank of Mum and Dad, where, if you like, Jackinator would give you a loan of 500 quid, and you pay back 500 quid. There's no checks, there's no credit checks, there's no interest, there's no charges. You just pay it back, and as soon as you pay it back, we give it to someone else. And then more recently, during COVID, we set up what I call Tons of Help of Jackinator, which is just 100 quid cash grant. We give away 100 quid cash to people to pay for their shopping, to help with their bills, to help with their energy bills, especially, and do that. And so, in the end, we'd given away, I think, nearly 200 tons. 200 units of £100 each over the last 2 years, and it's amazing. And people have money comes in at one end and we give it out at the other. So people give us donations, we turn it into £100 sums. People contact us in need, we assess their suitability, and we give them 100 quid. No questions asked. We just give them 100 quid, and as long as we've still got money in the kitty, we'll give it away. And then when the kitty goes low, either I'll put more money in, or we'll, raise more funds to go into that kitty and give it away in lump sums again. And we'll be doing that, Tons of Help, at Christmas. So we'll be reigniting that again at Christmas. So that's the story of the foundation. It's the most important thing I've ever done in my life,
And hugely rewarding for you personally as well to be in that position to give and change people's lives in no small way, probably. Whilst it might be a relatively small amount of money, that can make a big difference to them personally at that time.
Yeah, because I'm not about to go and run a marathon. I don't do that. But I can badger people to match the amount of money I put in. If I say, okay, well, I'm putting 10,000 quid in the kitty. Can you also give me between you 10,000 quid? Thank you very much. And now I'm going to give it away. That's it. I don't have to run a marathon or shave my head or sit in a bath of beans. I'm just going to say, you give me money and I'll give it away to people who need it. Okay, that's the deal. And if someone ever said, well, what do I get out of that, Trevor? I'll say, well, you get to sleep nights. You get to sleep nights knowing you did a good thing. That's all. That's it. I don't have to run a marathon. You give me money, I'll give it to someone who needs it. That's it. I'm cutting out the middleman of the doing something silly for money so you can give it to someone else. Don't do the silly thing. You give them the money and I'll give it to someone else. That's how it works. It's back to your point about sometimes the brutally simple is the way to do things,
Much better for your knees as well.
That's right, yes. And for my reputation of being a lazy git, yeah.
The big question, Trevor, you are our first guest who is going to be due to be travelling to space. How's this come about? What's your mission to space about, and how's this happening?
I love being asked that question because I love being able to say, yes, Ian, I'm going to space next year. We've got 2 more test flights to go this year, and then we'll be off up there early next year. And I've waited all my life, so I can wait a bit long. I won't say I can't wait because I can wait, but it'll be the most extraordinary experience of my life. The only thing, if it hadn't been for COVID, I would have gone to space by now. The irony being is the travel ban to the States. I've got a perfectly functioning rocket ship which could take me to space now, but I don't have a functioning Virgin Atlantic Airbus to take me to New Mexico to go. So who'd have ever thought that the airplane would have been the problem? It's the weirdest of dilemmas. So Richard invited me to go to his test flight. I would have been on that on the runway there in New Mexico. But by the time they'd got the date together and the invite together, I'd have been in quarantine. So I could have flown to New Mexico, or flown to America, but I would have had to spend 10 days in a travel tavern outside New Mexico in quarantine. I'd have missed the flight anyway. So frustratingly, I had to watch it on Sky News like everybody else.
And have you heard from any of those that went up on that first flight then, Richard or anyone else, as to how it was for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Richard very well, and I know Beth. And Beth, who works for astronaut training at Galactic, she's been twice now. She's an extraordinary woman, and so she's great at expressing what it's like, for people, for future astronauts, to what to expect. And that's part of her job, is to go up there and experience it and make some corrections and changes to the situation, so it's perfect for us when we go. It's a mind-blowing experience. Some of the things that they told me about how it looks, the planet looks bright when you see film of it, but they all say to me, and I've got to know Buzz Aldrin. I'm proud to say that Buzz is a friend of mine, and they all say the same thing, which is, you've never seen brightness like it. It's as if the Earth has a light inside it. It's the brightest thing you've ever seen. It's extraordinary colour. And the other thing is the silence of space. And one of them told me that it's so silent that they can hear the oil going through the pipes in the machine.
Wow.
It's an unreal silence of space. As we know, no one can hear you scream up there. We know that. But that is one of the more extraordinary things about it. There are so many kind of different elements that assault the senses, from the weightlessness, obviously, to the view, to the vacuum, to the lack of sound, to the acceleration on the way up there, and the re-entry. There's so many different phases of assault on the emotions and the senses, that it's like nothing else. It's I find it quite emotional when I see them make a test flight. I do find it, just watching it, quite an emotional thing.
And you mentioned Buzz Aldrin there. He, of course, himself is a veteran, but of course one of the most famous astronauts of all time, and it's quite a friend to have in your contacts book. Yeah,
what a lovely man. What an incredible man. He was a Korean vet. He flew F-86 for the aviation. Buzz listening. He flew F-86 Sabres in the Korean War, and he got the Purple Heart. And I invited him to one of our foundation dues at Sywell in Northants. He came along and he met the Normandy veterans. I've got some lovely footage of Buzz Aldrin talking to Normandy vets. And there were a couple of my friends who are, hello, Ron Smith, if you're listening, who are Korean vets. So for Buzz to meet the Korean vets as well was an extraordinary moment. And then we took him aerobatic flying with the Blades, Britain's best aviation team, British best aerobatic team. And we flew Buzz in the Blades aerobatically. He couldn't resist taking control of the plane as well. So that was an extraordinary day. Buzz is a very special man. He's in his 90s now. He's still bright as a button, Yeah. And he talks Mars. If you want to get Buzz's attention, talk about Mars. Buzz has got plans to get us to Mars. The moon is merely a service station on the way to Mars for Buzz. So obviously Virgin Galactic for Buzz is a bit like me getting a black cab around London. It's kind of a bit beneath him, really. But he kind of does the bless you, Trev, yeah, verbally pats me on the head when I talk about Galactic, because that's all right. But it ain't Mars.
That's the big aim. No, it's absolutely fantastic. And I've been lucky enough to go up with the Blades myself before, and I can imagine he would have.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It was an air show where there was a press. They invited some of the press to go, and I used to be in the air.
Some proper G then.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. I mean, I used to be in the Air Cadets when I was younger, and so right. I've done, quite a bit of flying and private pilot's license and things like that. But yeah, to go flying with them and just how close they all are. And you're just looking out the window and you just think, blimey, we're going 300 miles an hour here, and it's and then they're doing, and it's just amazing to be in there, because obviously they are going through the same processes that the Red Arrows go through, where they're counting down to the manoeuvres and all this kind of stuff. And then we did this thing at the end where it was like a climb all the way up, spin in, and then there was a stall turn. and then
Tail
it went,
slide,
and it was a tail slide, and it tumbled down like. I mean, I don't know what it.
You have done it.
I don't know what it looked like, but it certainly felt like being in a washing machine. But
that's right. Yeah, launch your back.
That was it.
Falling back into your own smoke. Yeah, it's launch your back to call it. Yeah,
that was it.
Wow, you've done it.
Yeah,
excellent job.
Yeah, no, and I've got the video somewhere because they had the cameras.
The pilots, they really are.
Yeah, no, it was
the in-cockpit video. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I've got it somewhere, but it was incredible.
Brilliant.
So I knew
you should show that at Erskine. They'd love that.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. I don't know where it is, but it was quite incredible. And I say you don't really have an appreciation of how it looks when you're in there, when everything's just spinning round. But when I've seen them performing elsewhere, you can see the moves they're doing. You think, I think I've done that.
Fantastic. Well, you can imagine how proud and happy they were to have Buzz Aldrin sitting in the front seat.
That would have been incredible, yeah.
It's very special.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
And planes are playing a big part in your filmmaker role, which obviously we talked about at the start, that you were a ad man turned film man. And tell us about, first of all, the Lancaster movie. What's I'm guessing that it involves a Lancaster, but what's the story?
It does indeed. Lancaster is our follow-up film. It's a work in progress right now. Our follow-up to our documentary Spitfire of 2 years ago. And so we wanted to tell the story of Lancaster properly, warts and all. So we talk about Dresden, and we talk about Hamburg, and we talk about Coventry, and we tell the story properly. You know, the way I look at it is, I saw Spitfire was a machine with a soul, and Lancaster was a machine with 7 souls, and that's fundamentally different. You know, going back to that point you made, Ian, earlier about teamwork and camaraderie and band of brothers, really. That applies totally to Lancaster, whereas it didn't to Spitfire. Spitfire's kind of dueling heroes. Lancaster, a horrendous job at night, bombing cities, bombing factories. An extraordinary story, you know. An all for one and one for all, etc. You know. So I think we've got it. I think we've got a very moving, very honest piece of film. And I can promise you, everyone at Erskine, that next year when the film's finished, that I'll come up, hopefully with some of the fellows, and we'll do a big screening for you. And I'll tell you the story of the film, and we'll show it and get as big a speakers as we can possibly install, so you can hear the sound of 4 mighty Merlins, you know. We'll make a big night of it. Who knows? Maybe do 2 nights. Maybe we'll show Spitfire the one night, and then we'll show Lancaster the next night.